Life's Learning Curve, Episode 63, John DiDonna.
Hi again, everybody, and welcome to Life's Learning Curve. I'm Paul Hart, your host. You know, our podcast here, Life's Learning Curve, is all about trying to become the best us that we can be. And we do that through retelling stories, interacting with things that have happened to us. Okay, so today, John DiDonna is our guest. And John has been many things to many people throughout his life. Besides being a father, a brother, a son, a grandpa, a comedic friend to many, John's worked hard to create and produce a lifetime of comedy right here locally in the Midwest. Now, over the years, from being on stage to TV, John DiDonna has put a smile on our faces. But where did that passion to make others happy come from? Let's find out. Sebastian.
Here we go.
Life's Learning Curve with Paul Hart. Episode A Face for Radio. John DiDonna. Stand by. Stand-up comic. An entertainer, a graphic artist, a puppeteer, a photographer, a TV producer. Ladies and gentlemen, TV's John DiDonna. Hey, fake applause right here. Hey, John.
Who said that? Who's talking? Is this radio?
This is radio, and there's some visual to it, too.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Because people used to tell me I have a good face for radio.
Yeah, well, I could back those people up with that. I've known John since the late 80s, probably, and
Yes.
I worked on some programs for him, and he got me involved in some of the comedy and things he was doing, and it was so much fun. But we reconnected. We were just talking about this a minute or so ago. We reconnected through Facebook, and it was one of those mornings where you get up, and I was looking in the mirror, and I looked, and I thought, you know, you get closer and closer to the mirror, you start to see the age lines and the wrinkles, and you go,
Yes.
oh my gosh, you know, the older I get, the more I felt I was starting to look like the older version of Chico Marx from the
Yes.
Marx Brothers.
Yes.
And I didn't know if I liked that or not, so I don't know why. I went out and posted it on Facebook, and who responded? John DiDonna, my friend from 1987. There you go.
Right.
So how you doing, John?
I'm good, but you just reminded me of something.
Okay.
I was in the bathroom in the dark, staring into the mirror for a long time.
In the dark.
All of a sudden, I thought I saw a Japanese person staring back at me. But it was just me squinting.
I see.
So it didn't amount to anything. It didn't amount to anything. Yeah. Well, I was in the newspaper business for 30 years, off and on.
Okay.
I worked for a lot of the Shaw publications.
Okay.
Shaw newspaper publication. I worked for like 5 different newspapers in different different jobs. But I never thought that I ever belonged in the working world.
Yeah.
Okay? I didn't belong. I didn't follow any rules. I didn't go to mandatory meetings.
Yeah.
John, you're supposed to be in this meeting. No, thanks.
You had the suit, though.
One time I
Costume.
did go to a meeting, and I brought in a ventriloquist dummy with me. And I sat it on my lap. I never said a word the entire time, and me and the dummy just kept looking at each other. The publisher was in there. He got mad. He gave me a lecture afterwards. He got mad. Everybody, some people were snickering. Some people were just shocked. What's this guy doing? But I just walked in. I was just
That's fun. It's a funny
staring at
story.
that-
Did
that dummy.
the dummy get a raise?
No. They did lay me off on my 20th anniversary with the company.
Wow.
2 people from Human Resources came in. I thought I was getting an award. They told me to get out.
Boy, isn't that
Okay.
That's a common tale.
That's fine.
That's awful.
Fine. Yeah, so I never belonged in the working world. Quick thing about when I was a photographer for the Elburn Herald. Okay. I was a photographer for a few different newspapers, but I was commissioned to go to a grade school to give a lecture about cameras to a third grade class.
Okay.
Okay, so they set me up in the library, And they brought in the entire third grade class, and they all sat on the floor. And I was going to show them the camera and the giant lens that I had on the outside and stuff. And I had my back to them, and I'm setting all this stuff up.
Right.
Okay. Unbeknownst to me, my zipper was down, and my shirt tail was sticking out through it. Didn't know it. I swung around and I said, "Hey, kids, ever see one of these before?"
No.
There was no way out of it. I had to slowly turn around, fix things, and then turn around again and pretend it never happened. So that was one of my life's most embarrassing moments. Except when Mike Trestick pulled my gym shorts down in front of the girls' gym class in freshman year. To this day, I'm still looking for Mike Trestick. If I find him, I'm going to pull his pants off, no matter where he's at, grocery store, restaurant. But before the cops drag me away.
He deserves that. But John, the thing was, weren't you like standing outside the girls' locker room for about 3 days, just waiting for him to come by to do it?
Yeah. He told me to wait there, and so I
think that's and now the rest of the story. You've worked. You talked about working at the Herald in Elburn, right?
Yes.
All right. So you got pretty pretty comfortable using Photoshop, right?
Oh, yes.
Yeah. And a lot of your...
well, I learned Photoshop years earlier at the Kane County Chronicle in Geneva. Yeah. They had just brought it in, and it was... I started at the very first... earlier version of Photoshop. I think it was gasoline powered or something. So, get this Photoshop going.
I don't have the choke on.
Yeah. So, and you can do amazing things in Photoshop. I mean, every artist should know how to use it.
What made you laugh as a kid?
My family. My father was a very serious guy, but I come from an Italian family. Okay, lots of big meals, Italian meals.
Right. Yeah.
8-year-olds were having heart attacks in my family. So, and but my father, he had his own language. He would say "Dabodia." My brother and I'd be playing outside. Get in the house, Dabodia.
Dabodia.
Yeah. Or Jeet, which means did you eat? Jeet? No, Jew. So that and when I was 3 years old, I'm laying on the floor and I drew a perfect picture of a man. When I was 3 years old, my mother screamed, "Oh my God, look what he did!" And my dad yelled, "Shut up, I'm watching the news." So he had no interest.
The news is much better than this drawing right here.
He had no interest.
Did you find a certain amount of pleasure or enjoyment in making members of your family laugh? Or was it you who you're trying to...
I sat in my room. All the other kids are out playing, and I'm drawing cartoons. I laugh at them, and then I put them in a drawer and never showed them to anybody. I was there to entertain myself. I like being alone. I like entertaining myself. It didn't matter.
To me, I think as I grew up, my joy. My dad didn't laugh all the time, but he was pretty light-hearted, but the thing I noticed about him was he would roar with laughter when he watched the Dick Van Dyke Show.
Really?
And he would literally force him out of the chair. He'd be laughing so hard in this loud laugh. And I really took note as a kid and thought, that's interesting. That's quite interesting.
My dad was the opposite. He hated Dick Van Dyke. He kept saying, "Why is this guy wearing a suit and tie in his own house?"
Well, like Ward Cleaver came home and wore a suit and tie in his own house, and it was always that really tight.
Ward took the boys to a ball game, and they all had to wear suits and ties.
That's right. What's going on with that?
I don't know.
I don't know. It's hard to explain the early 60s, except we probably dressed better. Do you remember coming home from school? I'm just jumping around here, but did you have to change from your school clothes to your play clothes or whatever your parents called them? Yeah, it doesn't
Yes.
happen anymore.
Yes, we
Yeah.
only had like 3 shirts and 2 pair of pants to last the whole school year.
Yeah,
So.
yeah.
Yeah. One time I was watching a war movie with him. I was a little kid. We're watching a war movie.
Yeah.
I said, Dad, what are those big metal things that go over the hills with the big gun on the front?
Yeah.
He said, tanks, son.
Yeah.
I said, you're welcome, Dad. But he never told me what those things were.
To this day, you're still
Right,
wondering.
it's tanks.
You still see them. Okay, I met you and your equally talented younger brother Joe when you produced and acted and starred in a local show called TWITS.
Right.
Can you tell us a little bit about that? What was TWITS?
TWITS stands for This Week in the Suburbs, and it's a comedy news program. To this day, if I plug that show in, I'm on the floor laughing, even though I was there. And it's really tongue-in-cheek, subtle humor. It's all over the place. We have these characters. We have like Clint Eastwood and Charles Bronson as roommates.
Yeah, that's right, as roommates.
In the Mean Couple.
Yeah.
You know, but if you watch the show and one great thing my brother did is he showed the outtakes also.
Yeah.
And which were and we're rolling on the floor and laughing at ourselves.
Right.
And it was the most fun I ever had in my life. With all these things I've done, that was the most fun, that show. And
that makes sense, yeah.
my stand-up comedy partner, Tim Mack,
Right, remember Tim?
he was a tall, handsome guy. When we did stand-up, we had like a Martin and Lewis routine. He was the tall, handsome guy, and I was the monkey.
Yeah.
I would sit in the audience and heckle him, and he'd bring me on stage, and we'd do some routines.
So you did do that?
Yes.
Okay.
We did about 3 different comedy clubs. We did a circuit.
Nice.
And
what was the
doing
time frame of that? Is that the 90s, 80s?
that was actually during TWITS. It was like from 85 to 87.
Yeah.
Yeah. But Tim was very talented, but very difficult to work with. For instance, one time we were rehearsing, and we did a lot. We brought some of our stuff into TWITS, like the punch drunk boxer.
Yes.
Yeah. Answering the questions.
Exactly, yeah.
A clip from
I
TWITS.
notice you don't wear a mouthpiece.
No, not anymore. No.
Well, why is that? That's
I
kinda-
swallowed it.
Well, don't you think fighters should have mouthpieces?
Well, it hasn't come out yet.
Well, would you ever wear a mouthpiece
Not
again?
that mouthpiece. I ain't gonna wear that mouthpiece. Get off the mouthpiece.
Well,
And we were rehearsing that, and before every question Tim asked me, he'd say, well, let me ask you this, Rock. And then, but before every question, well, let me ask you this, Rock. I said, Tim, we got to stop. You are saying, let me ask you this before every question, and it's not good. Stop doing it.
It's
And
distracting,
he said, I'm not doing that. I said, you are doing that.
Yeah.
He said, no, I don't think I'm doing that. So I turned on the tape recorder that I had running, and I played it for him, and he still said, I'm not doing that.
So you're starting to build a story like the Sunshine Boys at
Yeah,
this point, between the two of you.
exactly.
Yeah.
Well, Tim worked with us earlier, back in '83, on the puppet shows.
Okay.
The puppet show we took out to the East Coast.
Okay.
Okay.
Wow.
With Bob Sherman, we'll talk about him later. He's a genius and great guy to work with. But and Bob Sherman was in charge. It was his show. Bob ended up taking Tim by the ear, dragging him down to the bus station, putting him on a bus, and sending him home. That's how annoying Tim became.
Okay.
So,
Did it start out that way?
no. He had to discipline him a few times, but Tim just started, I don't know if he was homesick or what, but... Sometimes I just do
I just
that.
learned something there. I just
what-
learned something about the
what?
teeth there, the fake teeth there.
Yeah.
Actually, they're a thing.
Yeah, they are. You can buy these. Another thing he did, he disappeared 5 years at a time. Over the years, he would disappear for 5 years.
He
and come
disappeared
back.
from the show, I know.
He disappeared.
He was
from the
gone.
show. TWITS
Once.
He did TWITS 1 through 3.
If you see this man, his name is Tim Mack, a missing comedian.
He is approximately 6 feet tall, 200 pounds, dark hair, bloodshot eyes, and he'll be holding a microphone. Martin?
Twits 4.
Right after the dance at the end.
Twits 4 I did alone, and Twits 5 I did with Gary Homuth, who was stage name Martin Scalise, and he was a joy to work with.
Oh, okay.
And I can't find him.
I was
don't
going to
know
say
where
what
he is.
happened to him.
I can't find him. I would really love to find him. I've typed in his name and his other name, and he's off the grid.
Yeah.
Or he's dead.
Yeah, one of those two. But even if he had passed, you'd usually find an obituary or something like
That's
that.
how I found a lot of my friends.
Yeah, me too. What are some of the things you really appreciated about your partner?
Very quick. He would get me. If I would go off on a tangent, he could jump right in and be just as funny as me. He was very quick like that.
Sure.
But then he could be a jerk on the other side.
Right.
So, but you have to take people as they are.
Yeah.
You can't say, sometimes you're a jerk, so I don't want to deal with you anymore.
Yeah.
But you're really talented, so I'm going to put up with you.
And so I grew up with the humor of Stan Freberg and Bob Newhart and early Bill Cosby.
I was the same way with Ernie Kovacs.
That was my next person.
Okay.
Was Ernie Kovacs.
Oh, my God.
Had he lived. What Ernie Kovacs, for those people who don't know, is and I'm not going to explain him well because I haven't read everything about him, but he was very innovative. He would set up a camera on a set, and he'd do a whole scene of something, and he'd go to pour a pitcher of water, and the water would go up. That's because he did the whole thing upside down, but you couldn't tell. And for that day and age, that was innovative. And what were the monkeys?
What were they called? I can't remember.
Mongolian trio or something.
Brought out this easel, big pad of paper on it, and he drew a refrigerator and the freezer up on top. He just drew it. But then he took a little knife, a little X-Acto knife, and he cut along the top of the freezer, peeled it back, opened it up, and these ice cubes came pouring out.
Again, it seems like nothing for 2022 when we're shooting this, but in the early 60s, late 50s, it's really cool. And then he died in a traffic accident, didn't he? That's too bad.
Yeah, his wife was
Edie
Adams, and
Beautiful.
he died just before she started shooting It's a Mad, 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 Mad World. And so she was very depressed throughout that.
Yeah.
It's my favorite comedy.
Yeah.
I have it on DVD. I won't watch it on network television because that takes like 7 hours.
Yeah, with the commercials, yeah.
Yeah.
We wanted to see it as a family, and we went to a drive-in and saw it. It was the only time our family ever went to a drive-in.
I saw it at the drive-in too with my dad. And my dad, we sat, and it's kind of drizzling out, so we kept the windows all the way closed. But my dad smoked like 5 packs of cigarettes throughout that movie.
So you remember the original film being a diffusion. There's all this smoke.
Everybody in
diffusion.
my family smoked. It was like at a family party to talk to somebody.
You walked around with your personal fan.
How you doing, Uncle Phil? Oh, well, I'm fine.
Yeah, he was coughing.
I'm going to go outside and get some fresh air and smoke a couple cigarettes, and I'll be right back. Every Italian family had a guy that talked like that.
Yeah, exactly. I can remember my dad laughing about when Jimmy Durante dies at the beginning of the film.
And he kicked the bucket.
Literally kicks the bucket.
Right.
And there's certain things that hang with you your whole life. That's what I remember about that film.
And there's little lines that nobody else remembers that I remember that I thought were hilarious. When Mickey Rooney and Buddy Hackett were up in the plane, and they were finally going to land, and Mickey Rooney said, "What's this coming?" Buddy Hackett said, "That's good. That's cement." I've heard Stanley Kramer, the producer director, said there wasn't much ad-libbing at all. Yeah, the problems they had were between filming, when they were all sitting out in the desert, and Phil Silvers always had a crap game going on.
Just like his TV show.
And Jonathan Winters would run out into the desert doing routines with cactuses and stuff, so they finally had to keep him locked in a trailer. because he'd go nuts.
He was pretty out there.
Yes.
The winners.
Yes.
You know, back talking about This Week in the Suburbs, you did a variety of characters, which I'm sure, you'd been doing for years before that. But I remember your Groucho Marx segment that you did.
Yeah,
you laid sideways on the desk and you did Groucho. A clip from TWITS.
I remember my wife. I can see her now bending over in a hot stove. But I can't see the stove. But enough reminiscing. I'm here to talk about taxes. But what do I know about taxes? I only been to Texas once, Dallas, Texas. Biggest state in the Union. Except for my wife.
I did community theater right out of high school.
Okay. Yeah.
And I didn't do... in those days, I could do all the Marx Brothers. But
Yeah.
me and my best friend, Rich Lever, and a guy named Chris Limber, and another guy, we ran around the town promoting the play dressed as the Marx Brothers.
Nice, that's great.
We'd run into stores and throw things up in the air, and people are calling the cops on us, and we're running out. I was Chico.
Oh, yeah, there you go.
My friend Rich was Groucho, and
that's great. Well, you did a great Groucho, and the speed at which you delivered your lines. I'm going back to the 87 stuff, 88 stuff. It's really good.
One time he was on Dick Cavett's show, and he had started talking about why he never went into the service. He got out of military duty because of his bad eyes. And he said Chico was rejected because of a bad ear. Okay. And Harpo was rejected because he wouldn't answer any of their questions. So I just thought
that's great. That's quite funny. Do you have a favorite Marx Brother?
No, it'd have to be Chico.
Yeah.
I memorized almost all of his spiels and routines. Well, I tell you, Monday we watch Firefly's house, but he no come out. He wasn't home. Tuesday we go to the ball game, but he fool us. He no show up. Wednesday he go to the ball game, we fool him. We no show up. Thursday was a doubleheader. Nobody show up. Friday it rained all day. There was no ball game, so we stay home and listen to it over the radio.
Did they write their own stuff, do you think, back
No.
then?
They had some great writers, and let me tell you something.
But they performed then.
Well, yeah, let me tell you something. They would write their movies first as a stage play.
Yes.
They would go out and they would take it on the road for about a year, perfecting everything. The writers would be sitting in the audience saying, that joke works, that joke doesn't work, so and so. And then when they were ready, they shot the movie. In 1930, they were.
I was a kid.
They were doing animal. They were doing Animal Crackers
yeah.
on Broadway.
Yeah.
One of Groucho's best friends came and saw the show. After the show, he said, "Groucho, I want you to give up this show business stuff. Come work with me in my law firm. Come on, you can make $10,000 a year in my law firm." Yeah. Well, Groucho did not have the heart to tell this guy he was making $10,000 a week.
Can you imagine back then?
1930, making
$10,000 a week.
Yeah.
I can't imagine.
But then Groucho lost it all in the stock market crash.
Yeah.
Lost it all, had to start over.
How did the Marx Brothers impact you?
They were always making fun of and fighting against authority. Yeah. And I learned how to do that at an early age, which pretty much harmed my career in the newspapers. Right. I did. Yeah. I had no respect for people. I think
sometimes there's not enough to do, and so they hire extra people, and
they're always having meetings. It makes them feel important.
Yeah,
to have meetings.
I have to have another meeting to validate my phony baloney job.
Here's a crazy thing I did one time.
Tell me.
It was middle of winter in the evening. It was snowing. I was going from house to house knocking on doors. And if an old lady opened the door, I'd say, "Mother, it's me, it's George Bailey. Don't you know me?" And then she'd just stare at me and I'd run away and do it to another house.
I can see you doing it.
Yeah,
I mean, it's not... anything from that movie it can be comedic. Almost anything from It's a Wonderful Life can be comedic.
And think about all the
Old Man
the
Potter.
all the crimes he commits during that movie. He punches a cop. He attacks a woman. He embezzles money. At the end, everybody comes and gives him all this money. What the heck?
Wow, that's like a template, for bad behavior. Do you have a favorite TWITS memory, favorite scene sequence you did?
Yes, I have a favorite, and I asked you to post it for me. What you did was when Bob Sherman fell on the floor laughing. See, I was supposed to take the I was Charles Bronson in a Puffs commercial. I was supposed to take the tissue out of the box and blow, and it was attached to a string, and he was supposed to play the slide whistle and pull the string at the same time.
Right.
What complicated this whole thing is my mustache kept falling off.
Yep. Props.
Yes.
Yeah.
And every time we think we're getting through it, getting it right, finally he couldn't take it anymore, and he just
broke up,
and he's got the weirdest laugh you ever heard.
It's a
yeah.
it's an inhale, laugh in thing. A clip from TWITS.
Can I go anytime?
Anytime.
You know, I'm tough, but even tough guys get a cold. And when we get a cold, we can't just reach for any tissue like this. Too. You see what happens? I reach for...
Charles Bronson for Puffs, and if
Yeah.
you remember Charles Bronson, he was just so grit. Well, you do, obviously. You've got him on your shirt,
Right.
which you drew. He was so grim, and he was so squinty-eyed,
Yes.
so terse about life and things. The first guy who looked at him and said, "This guy should be in a film,"
Right. And you knew he was that way in real life.
Yeah.
Charles Bronson in McDonald's. Hey, you zit face. Give me a cheeseburger, and there better not be a pickle on there.
Yeah. And when you did Bronson, and sometimes you did him in close-up because of the hat issue, but that's
Right.
neither here nor there. But you do him in close-up, and there'd be that sideways shot of you just squinting, like...
Yeah.
That whole thing. I love that, because your face did, at that particular time, lend itself to
Yes.
look a little bit like Charles Bronson.
Yeah.
You know?
And it was easy because between Tim and I,
Yeah.
I'd say we did about 150 voices.
Did you?
150 impressions.
Wow.
Of the old people.
Yes.
Nobody
right.
does impressions of actors now.
Pep boys. Pep boys. Pep boys. Pep boys. Pep boys.
I do remember also, you guys had the three characters, Manny, Moe, and Jack. Now, I know the Pep Boys now because they came to the Midwest, but back then they weren't here. So where did the Pep Boys come from? How did you get a hold of that?
Joe has his best friend, I think, lived on the East Coast at that time, and I think he might have introduced Joe to the Pep Boys. A clip from TWITS.
When your brakes go bad, don't get mad. The three best friends your car ever had. Pep Boys. Manny, Moe, and Jack.
But in a couple shows, maybe 3 shows, there would just be the caricatures, the Pep Boys, and you'd be, Pep Boys, they'd just be moving. Let me ask you, too, there was the character, and I think this might have been a relative of yours, you'd animated a still picture, Kenny?
Crazy Kenny.
Who was that?
That was my mom's brother, my Uncle Kenny.
Okay.
He was a drunk, and he was the funniest man I ever saw, and my dad hated him. Because he was always laughing. He was always laughing, and he was always happy and laughing. And punch truck boxer routine.
Yes.
We lifted that from another Alan and
your
Rossi.
comedy. Alan and Rossi.
We lifted that word for word
They were
from
quite
them.
funny.
We had an album,
Yeah.
and we listened to it, and we said, hey, we're going to do that because
Yeah.
nobody's going to remember this,
No.
and they'll think it's ours.
Yeah.
Yes. A lot of stealing going on.
Very cool, but it gave you a chance to do that character and to do the voice, which
Yes.
was just fun. You and your brother Joe. Do you guys make each other laugh?
Oh, yeah. If you ever, well, if I ever go to a family party, we don't have as many as we used to.
Right, of course.
You want to have fun.
going on?
You want to have fun, you park yourself by Joe. And he'll tell you stories about his mail route and all the characters he meets and the old Jewish guy, and he does all the voices and stuff. And it's just hilarious. Just park yourself near Joe if you're ever in.
If you could just choose another route for Joe, what would it have been? Another career, maybe?
Jeff Forrester said it best one
Yeah.
time. You remember Jeff
Yeah.
Forrester? He said, you guys should have been born 20 or 30 years earlier.
Yeah.
You would have had great careers. He was telling that to me and Joe.
It's true.
Yes.
That's very true.
I mean, I got married right out of high school. Okay, I married this woman. I knew the marriage lasted 8 years. It shouldn't have lasted 8 minutes. Okay. she was a yeah. That put a hold on my life all those years when I should have been out in California.
Yeah.
You know, sleeping in a car and trying to become something.
And becoming homeless. Learning
Yes.
how to become homeless the right way.
Right. He's very talented and he's done quite well, but he always used to compliment us on our show. You know.
Roger Sickwell, which I love the backwards forward, Sickwell. And then Mr. Friendly, the characters that Pete Lilly played. First of all, Pete Lilly is pretty good as when he's performing.
Yes.
He's an interesting guy.
He
Way more depth.
never missed a beat. We never had to cut or edit any of his stuff. He did it right through.
Yeah, and they had balls being thrown at him, and he just
Yes.
which is outside of his personality. He's just the most
Exactly.
kind-hearted person.
But I'll tell you, one of the greatest comedy performances, and I can't believe I'm doing this, was Brian Bear as the bus driver, as the manic bus driver.
Well, he was.
I mean, people when that was over, people in the booth were applauding because he was.
Yeah. Well, it might have been the role he was meant to play.
Maybe it was.
And talking about wasted sitcom ideas
You
out
can
in
sit
Hollywood.
down, I'm warning you.
And the fact that he had the fake wheel and the camera went right by him on it at the end was beautiful. It was a surprise, you know. You don't know what to expect, and I think that's in the end of the TWITS shows, the last ones. You were looking at things to do outside of the desk, which is fine. You can do whatever you want. It's your show, and then you kind of experimented with things like Big Oaf Bread, which cracked me up. Because of, obviously, the guy who played the Big Oaf, which was Steve Murphy character, he was just a camera guy like me at the time, and he came in, he's got a trophy and he drops it and he steps on it, and the voice of it is overdubbed. Hi, Mom. And it always makes me laugh. Look what I won. And
I had to dress up as my mom.
Oh, that's how it starts to me. From beginning to end, that's a great sketch.
Yeah.
A clip from TWITS.
Oh, Ronnie will be home for lunch any moment. I'd better prepare his big oaf bread sandwich.
Hi, Mom. Look what I want.
Big old bread!
Big oaf bread for the Lomax in your family.
Joe came up with the Big Oaf bread concept because
He saw the packaging.
they made bread called Big Loaf. And he held his hand over the L and he goes, "Look, Big Oaf."
Yeah.
Oh, okay, now we got
A
something.
Day in the Life of Joe DiDonna, which is, he's seeing stuff nobody else is seeing. That's
Right.
quite funny. Over the years, ever since you did the scene with Pete Lilly on the movie reviewer,
Right.
and he always had the same film, which was
The
his
Ten
favorite film.
Commandments.
But he's true to that. Still to this day, he still will say that if you talk to him. It's my favorite film, The Ten Commandments.
Do you remember when he said, run the clip, and it showed him in the audience, and Joe walked in front, and he grabbed him and threw him over his shoulder? Well, we did that with a dummy, but the editing was
perfect.
so perfect.
And Pete's voiceover was, yes, I was watching this movie, and, this guy gets it from me, so I thought, what's he doing? So I had to get rid of him. Yeah!
Run the clip, Joe.
And now, a clip from TWITS.
Okay, here I am in the theater. They've got great popcorn at this one, let me tell you. And then some jerk comes in, gets right in front of me, can't see a darn thing, so I just had to get rid of him. And that's it. Well, there you have it.
Oh, great job, Roger. Now it's time for our Traveler of the Week.
Bob Sherman.
I met this guy named Bob Sherman around 1982. Okay. I saw an ad in the paper. It said, wanted people that can do voice impressions. I'm saying, this is interesting.
Yeah.
He set up over at the Holiday Inn that used to be on Route 25. He set up with cameras and him just sitting in a chair.
Is that right?
And, I'd say a good 100 people came in to audition to do this. It was a costume character show.
Yeah.
Live people with these big heads, costume character, but it was all on tape.
I got you.
And he wanted people to do the voices.
Yeah.
And out of all these people, he picked me and one other guy. Okay. And that's how I started getting involved in that. And then he got the idea he wanted to make an elaborate puppet show and take it on the road.
Okay.
And I said, okay, I'm in. I was working over at Hills McCanna.
Yeah. This will be a cheerful change from that.
Chopping my fingers off and inhaling deadly chemicals.
Yeah.
I've lost all these fingers. And
but they grew back.
Yes. All
That's
kinds
a
of
big
going on.
prop. How
Things
big was that
blowing
ship?
up. The ship was 20 feet long.
Wow.
Bob built the ship here. We took it in pieces out to Maryland.
Okay.
To a place called Ocean City.
Yeah.
In an amusement park, and we set up on a stage. We set up this ship, and Bob first built the ship in miniature, and it was like this.
Oh, it's one of those.
And he built the
Disney
stands.
guy.
He built the stands that people would sit in, and we said, Bob,
You don't have to build the stands.
I said, Bob, people can see the puppeteers inside the ship, and he took a ruler and put it on top. And he goes, no, they can't.
Wow.
Yeah. So
interesting guy. So was he a producer when you met him? What was he doing? Was he just?
He was one of the managers at Santa's Village.
Okay. But he dreamed bigger.
He came up. Yeah, he was the poor man's Walt Disney.
Yeah, I was gonna say
he came
very
up
Disney-like.
with all kinds of ideas to go on at Santa's Village. He was at Santa's Village in this outhouse, sticking his head out and smoking a cigar and talking to people as they walked by. that was one.
That is very Disney-like. It's like when you get out of the line, or as they call it, the queue. You get out of the line, you're leaving the place. There's somebody talking to you from the side, and it's usually animatronics.
And I walked around Santa's Village in a bear costume sometime. The big head, big smiling bear inside. Yeah. I'm saying, somebody kill me.
Oh, yeah, it's so hot.
It was. But Bob had the idea of installing these battery-operated fans inside the head. It took us, 8 months maybe to put this show together. And
this is before TWITS. Right?
Yes.
Okay.
This is 83.
Okay.
And we took. I did most of the voices. Tim did some of the voices.
Okay.
I wrote the script.
Yeah.
I wrote the songs.
Yeah.
And
the songs are nice.
Yes. And we did the whole thing on tape, so it was synchronized to what the puppets were doing.
Okay.
Yeah, because
that's very smart. For back then, that's very
we didn't
unique.
think we could actually do work the puppets, and do the voices. The big captain
Who
there.
Who do they think you are, the Muppets?
Yeah. The big captain there took 2 people to operate him. So there's a big clam sitting on a barrel in the background.
Sounds like the opening of a joke. Yeah.
And he says things like, "Frankly, Scallop, I don't give a clam," or "Don't be so shellfish."
It's perfect for you.
Yeah, stuff like that.
This kind of came naturally.
We're glad we did it. Got me out of the factory.
Yeah.
Yes.
Which you don't belong in a factory. You don't.
I did 10 years in the factory.
So you
10 years.
Yeah, you go to work.
You got out of high school.
Yeah.
And it was easy to get a job then. You walk into a place and, hey Frank, could I have a job? Yeah, grab that stuff over there and start working.
Yeah, grab that shovel.
Yeah. I don't like now. No. I like then. Yeah. There's so many things we've really lost, and one thing that really bothers me, and I might as well get it out there. People have 1 million photographs in their phone and on their computer. Are they going to print those out and put them in photo albums and pass them down to the next generation? Yeah, no, they're not going to do that. No. Our parents had all the photo albums that we
and you
could
remember
look at
sitting
now.
and looking at them.
Yes.
When you were a kid, I did.
Yeah.
Every weekend, looked at the photos.
Yes, we don't. We've lost that. Okay.
Right.
I said, what are you going to do? Are you going to hand that phone down to your grandchildren, and they're going to be able to see all these pictures?
Here's my cloud password.
Yeah. So that's one thing we don't have. Another thing we don't have is people don't sit down and write a letter to their friends.
Right.
And their friends will write a letter back to them. I have one friend that I do that with because he stays off the grid. I don't know why he does, but we write each other about once a year and say what's going on.
Most of the people that know you stay off the grid.
Yeah.
Very few people have get-togethers, and it makes me wonder, how are things going to be passed down from one generation to the next? Well, they're not going to be. And I think it's possible we're seeing some of that.
Here's the problem in my family. My wife is a very nice, wonderful person with morals and stuff like that. Those crazy things. And her family is like that. You get together with her family, and they all sit nice, and they talk nicely to each other. Right. Now, my family, people drink, smoke, swear, yell, throw things, and somebody always leaves the party mad. There's no mixing of these two families. You can't.
They say sometimes comedians or people that write comedy have something sad or depressing in their lives. Not that I want to even go in that way. Does that apply to you?
Yes, very much so. Comedy is born from tragedy, okay? Do you remember the TWITS couple of sketches about Billy Updike, the boy with no bones?
Right.
Okay.
Yep. Yep, I do. It's in the first show, I think.
Yeah. And then we did it, I think, in another show where they were taking in pledges while he was trying to get out of the chair.
Right.
And he kept falling over the back of the chair and stuff.
Yeah.
Well, I had 2 cousins who both died from muscular dystrophy. One was 17, one was 18. They died a year apart. And that always affected me, and I always dwelled on it. So in order to stop dwelling on it, I made a comedy routine out of it. Okay.
Yeah, sure.
And so, yeah.
So the Billy Updike stuff might have been leaning in that direction.
Right. So let's just, let people laugh at something like, oh, you can't laugh at people in wheelchairs.
Right.
They're tired of being pushed around. There's been a lot of tragedy in my life. I'm not going to mention a lot of them.
No, of course not.
It's
all right.
When I was 7 years old, I was riding a bike with no handle grips. It's just the bare metal.
Right.
I had an accident. The bar went up my mouth and ripped my top lip off. It was just hanging there.
Really?
Okay. I was laying in the street by the curb with the blood was running down the street.
Yeah.
And my dad ran out, picked me up, ran over, threw me in the car, ran back in to get his cigarettes, came back out, took me to a doctor who sat on my chest and sewed my mouth up.
Sat on your chest.
Yes.
A clip from TWITS.
Next week on This Week in the Suburbs, the dangers of carpooling.
Also, exit signs. Are they on their way out?
The credits, but if you want to see some of these extended versions of these clips that we're talking about, you can look on YouTube, search my name, Paul Hart, and then there's a subcategory, Paul Hart Access 21, and then look for anything titled John DiDonna or TWITS, TWITS, with dots in it. So, and you can see some of the comedy we're talking about back in the late 80s, right?
Right.
But anyway, thank you for coming.
You're welcome.
And
This was
hope
fun.
to see more of your work, and keep at it, man.
A clip from TWITS.
Hi, this is John DiDonna once again with another taste test. We're here in Friendly's Cafe with this man, Jack Montague, to see if he can tell the difference between Diet Pepsi and janitor in a drum. Can you?
So what did we learn today from today's show, or what did I learn? What's the big picture here? Well, I think, and I feel very strongly that a little humor may go a long way to improve your health, happiness, and longevity. And as for John DiDonna, our guest today, he's brought and continues to bring the humor. Very simply, John helps make the world spin for quite a few of us. And let's face it, life's better when you're laughing. For Life's Learning Curve, thanks to our guest, John DiDonna. I'm Paul Hart.
Subscribe to Life's Learning Curve at lifeslearningcurve.org and leave a review on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, or Podchaser.
Episode 63, A Face for Radio. John DiDonna of Life's Learning Curve podcast was put together by producer Sebastian T. Dog, executive producer Paul Hart, technical director Heidi Cerner, editor Paul Richards, audio and sound as always Riley Hart, production manager Jody Donna, studio equipment manager Don Compton. Hey, thanks to our guest John DiDonna. Please look and find his comedy work on YouTube. Search Paul Hart, H-A-R-D-T, Paul Hart Access 21. Find us on Facebook and listen to us just about everywhere podcasts are heard. Visit our website, lifeslearningcurve.org, and subscribe, read a blog, shoot us an email. This episode has imaginative voice recreations. To protect the privacy of others, some names have been changed and characters conflated. Episode 63, A Face for Radio, John DiDonna. I'm Paul Hart, and we will be back soon with more stories from Life's Learning Curve. We're clear.